I just love to talk about what's happening behind the scenes, the agenda of it all. The insurance company had the audacity to drop these people's plans a month or even as little as a day before the fires occurred. What psychopaths would go and make something that's already so uncontrollable even worse? There has to be something behind the blue color, and I need to get to the bottom of what it is. One of Diddy's victims, Allie Carter, came out a couple weeks before this fire broke out and said, I just think Starbucks coffee is one of those places that you go to when you need like a quick hit of caffeine. Why the F is Diddy riding a bike around the common area of jail? I don't even think he deserves those privileges. The way you stop obsessing over him is to stop hooking up with him.
Dry Diaries with your author, Alex Dry.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your author, Alex Dry, and I am here with my very first entry of the Dry Diaries. I am so excited. This is something that I've been working on for quite some time now. I'm just ready to get this first chapter started with you. We are going to talk about pop culture, relationships, dating, health and wellness. I love some good natural remedies, beauty, and my favorite, conspiracy theories, which at this point I basically deem myself a CTD, which is a conspiracy theory detective. If you don't know me, I'm Alex Dry. I'm the author of this podcast, and I am just about digging into everything unknown. If anything raises a red flag or seems sus to me, I'm going to get down to the bottom of it. If you don't like to dig into the deep truth, this podcast will also be for you because I have some amazing guests coming on, from Love Island to Hot to Handle. I have a medium, a love, health, and wellness expert. The Dry Diaries is basically going to be your tell-all for you guys as listeners to go and submit questions, whether you want it to be anonymous or not. For the very first entry, this was not the episode that I intended or had planned out for you guys. I wanted to touch on a totally different topic. Because of everything that is going on in the world, I only felt it was right to go into the topics that we're going to discuss today. Moving on in the future, there will be episodes with guests, and I'm contemplating adding an episode a week where I deep dive into conspiracy theories and what's going on in pop culture aside from the guests. If that's something that you guys are interested in, then let me know. I just love to talk about what's happening behind the scenes, the agenda of it all. Today, I want to discuss the LA fires to start out with, because whenever this happened, the way that everything occurred didn't sit right with me. If you don't know me, I lived in LA for the past 9 years and recently made a transition. I'm either moving to Austin or Nashville. That's a topic for another day. My heart is still in LA. I love LA so much. There's just something about LA that's so special. I don't know if it's the mixture of it always being warm, because I hate cold weather. I lived in Manhattan Beach, which if you ever go visit LA and you want the best beach, I would say that Manhattan Beach and Malibu were the top. Now, since everything occurred with the LA fires, it's really devastating the areas that it impacted. Also, the fact that I have so many friends still there which were affected or their houses were completely devastated by the fire. My heart goes out to them because that's so horrible. I honestly could not imagine, not only like, it's not even about the material things that I would per se, but it's about building. Whenever you have a house, like for me and myself, like I love interior decor. I love to make a house a home. The way I personally do that is the people that I invite into the home, the memories I make, but also the way that I furnish it, because it just really sets the aesthetic and vibe for your oasis whenever you come home. So losing your home, yes, there's so many materialistic things that you lose that are so sentimental and valuable. That's one part of it. But the other part of it is just the memories that you've made, the hard work and dedication to purchase that home, because we obviously know California real estate is one of the most expensive. That brings me to the fact that the insurance company had the audacity to drop these people's plans a month or even as little as a day before the fires occurred, which is crazy, because I also saw videos of people posting, well, these insurance companies drop people a month or 2 months before the fire occurred. To say that they weren't proactive about renewing their insurance is a little bit insensitive. And the fact that insurance companies in California, even if they were proactive about renewing their insurance, they most likely would not have been able to get disaster coverage. I say this because when I lived in LA, I wanted to buy a house. So I was looking at different houses near the beach. I found the perfect house. I was chatting with my real estate agent. I was asking her about insurance coverage. Living by the beach, there's so many different factors that could go into it. There could be obviously fires, water damage, earthquake, hurricane, mold. So I was asking her about the insurance coverage, and she basically gave me the advice to go reach out to insurance companies to see what their policies were. I reached out to these insurance agencies. I believe I called 6 or 7, I would say. All of them did not offer disaster insurance. And if they did, they were very, very small companies, which I just didn't feel comfortable with. A red flag was popping up in my mind of maybe I shouldn't follow through with this. I feel like there's something more behind it. And I remember looking at my real estate agent and literally telling her, you may think I'm crazy, but I swear there has to be something that's going to happen in LA, and a reason why these insurance companies just cut off all disaster insurance in Los Angeles. It may even be California, but I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that. But the fact that they were easily just cutting off people's insurance. I saw that one person had the same house, the same insurance coverage for over 70 years. And the day before they lost their house in the fire, their insurance was just dropped, which is giving agenda, because it's obviously big corporations behind the insurance companies. And you don't just go to work one day and they're like, hey, here's a list of people whose coverage we're going to drop. No, this is strategically planned. It's corporate environments. I'm sure they have their Q1, Q2, Q3, whatever it is. This is definitely something that has been in the works for probably quite some time. Knowing that about LA from personal experience with the insurance, I just thought it was really weird. So I started deep diving and doing my own research. So to take a step back a little bit, for any of you guys who may not be aware of the subject, which I'm pretty sure that is probably nobody, but as of January 10th, 2025, LA broke into insane fires. It included the Palisades, the Eaton, Hearst, Kenneth, and the Lydia fire. These fires caused over 10,000 structures to be completely devastated. Over 11 lives were lost, and 200,000 plus people were evacuated from their homes. The Palisades fire was one of the most destructive in LA history, which is insane to me because living in LA, I saw some crazy fires break out. And the fact that this is the most destructive in the history of LA is a testament to how bad this fire really is and how much was wiped out. I have really good friends still in LA, right? So whenever they reached out to me that all this was going down, it was just so crazy because everything happened so fast and spread just overnight. I was receiving the videos of all the devastation that occurred. It was literally unnoticeable, eerie, and apocalyptic. I just couldn't wrap my head around what used to be there and what it looked like to what I was receiving. Also, the abandoned cars played into that factor. When these people were notified to evacuate, the fires were growing and moving at a fast speed that these people literally had to just walk away from their cars and find a way to safety. Not only did they lose their homes, they also lost their transportation. That's just so much to lose in a split of a second. It's time to get into the details. And this is where things get crazy. So, back in, I believe it was November of 2024, Mayor Karen Bass did a budget cut to the Los Angeles Fire Department of $17.6 million. Once the fire department was notified, they came back in December, and the chief of the fire department, Kristen Crowley, gave a public statement that this budget cut would directly affect the responsiveness of the emergency responders. Then, 1 week before the fires broke out, Mayor Karen Bass came back and did a additional $49 million budget cut to the fire department. This means that the first responders didn't get notified of this budget cut until 1 day before the fire broke out, and tried to schedule a emergency meeting with the mayor, but coincidentally, she just happened to be out of the country, which great timing. I haven't seen this on my TikTok algorithm, and maybe people have been talking about it and I just am not aware, but if you add the two budget cut numbers together, 17.6 and 49, it's 66.6 million, which is 666. If you are anything like myself, I believe in spiritual signs, and numbers is a big part of that. So we all know that 666 is satanic, and I just think that everything is not coincidental in this situation. Also, the fact that the budget cut was made 1 week before is insane, because we usually have our fire season, I would say, around August and September. But you can also look at a weather map, a 30-day, 60-day forecast, and even a 7-day forecast, it being 1 week before, and clearly see that the winds are 80 to 100 miles per hour. Knowing the given history of LA, we don't do well with strong winds. It usually causes brush fires. It usually breaks out into wildfires. So why would you decide to make that cut during that time? The math is not mathing. The first responders went out to do their job and respond to the fires and help put them out. But when they went to go to the fire hydrants or the water banks, there was a lack of supply of water due to the budget cuts, or they have been ran dry. It's still up in the air of what really happened, but they didn't even have the proper resources to put out these fires initially. And that led to different planes coming in and trying to get water from the ocean. That should have never been in question or even a thing that happened. And it just makes you wonder, why were these so low? Isn't that like a standard health protocol? Is there someone that goes and checks fire hydrants to make sure that there's enough water? Because they didn't have the resources, they couldn't put out the fires quick enough. And there was no containment of the fires for a good amount of time. Obviously, it's been several weeks now, and so things may have changed a little bit. But the last time I looked, there was still some fires that had not been contained. So due to the lack of resources, lack of budget, there was obviously not enough men on the line to contain these fires the way that they should be. And because they needed more first responders, there was a proposition that went through in LA that prisoners can either volunteer or get paid to help when fires break out. Because of that, they went and got 800 additional prisoners to come assist in fighting the fires. Whether they were volunteering or getting paid, regardless, these people that decided to help and put their lives on the line, they were only paying $5.80 an hour. While I understand that these people are incarcerated, may have committed crimes, they are still human beings and they are still putting themselves at risk. The fact that we can only compensate them $5.80 is wild. I'm pretty sure you make more at McDonald's. Also, I saw someone's sister. She did a TikTok about her brother. Her brother had been incarcerated and he worked on the LA fires his duration of being in prison. Post getting out of jail, he wanted to continue to pursue a career as a firefighter because he really enjoyed his time and what he did with working in the fire department while in prison. So he went and he tried to get a job and was immediately denied, which I have an issue with this because if we are going to, approve this proposition, we're going to have these prisoners on the front lines and they're getting literally paid next to nothing, risking their lives, then why is it not a possibility for them to be released from prison and have the opportunity, especially with the right training and equipment, to become a first responder? I'm not saying that every criminal should be granted the access to become a first responder. What I'm saying is, depending on the degree of the crime, if we are already putting these people on the line and they have a passion for it, I think that there should be some sort of program once you get out of prison that you're able to go into that you can continue your work. And depending on the progress you make or how you are ranked in the system, that you are granted the chance to then move on into a position as a firefighter. There are people that do bad things, and whenever they spend time in prison, there is a lot of healing and growth done. And so again, depending on the degree of the crime, I don't think that they should be completely denied from continuing on what we've allowed them to do while in prison. Another thing I do want to add, as you know, the fires were very sporadic in the places that they were at. It was the Palisades, Malibu, Woodland Hills, Sherman Oaks, Hollywood Hills. These places aren't necessarily in close proximity to one another. Yes, there were a lot of videos of ambers flying through the air, which can spark fires, but it still is a little bit questionable. There was suspect of arson in a lot of cases. A homeless man was arrested near the Kenneth Fire in Woodland Hills for arson with a flamethrower. Apparently, residents saw him using the device to start debris, and now LAPD is investigating whether there's any connection between this guy and the actual fire that had already burned 1,000 acres. A lot of people that have been taken into question for arson, which is insane because what psychopaths would go and make something that's already so uncontrollable even worse? It's almost giving me that these people may have been pawns or players in this whole game. What I mean by that is I don't know if they were planted to help spread this in these different locations because of how sporadic they were, or if these people are actually just mentally unwell and want California to be gone altogether. And also, who even owns a flamethrower? That's crazy. Speaking of flamethrower, some of the videos I did see had black orbs in the sky and almost like a lightning strike device, very correlated to almost the Hawaii fire, and blue objects that were completely untouched and everything else was devastated around it. Which I did see photos, houses that were completely devastated, but their recycle bin was in front of their house and completely untouched, not burned at all. There was a study that a scientist did, a laser fire treatment. I don't know the name of it. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a detective. They did the experiment on the different colors of red, yellow, green, and blue. As this device went through, it was able to cut and burn all of these different colors, but the blue would not penetrate through. It was completely untouched. There has to be something behind the blue color, and I need to get to the bottom of what it is. But I do know if people in China are painting their roofs blue or covering their roofs in blue material, There has to be something behind that. I do have an overall picture for you guys why I think this all broke out. It also aligns with the pattern of where the fires occurred. There is a new system trying to be implemented in LA. It is the Smart LA 2028. And basically, what it is a project that the people in LA have been working on since 2018. And it is essentially trying to make LA a smart city as far as transportation, even communication, devices, all the sorts. The transportation system aligns directly with the devastation of the fires. And doing this with people losing their cars, their homes, their insurance, it makes me question, are they pushing this agenda onto people? What do they really want to achieve? I think it is a control thing, which if you know LA, my first thought of hearing the Olympics was coming to LA is we are definitely not ready for this. There's already so much traffic. I don't even think that there's enough hotels in the area to support this mass event. As I did my detective work with the fires, it all clicked for me because there's a reason why they want it done in time for the Olympics. The crazy thing is that they needed $100 million more to fund this project to get it done in time for 2028. And that was fully paid by the 15th of January, 5 days after the fire broke out. So this budget cut happened. The fires broke out. People lost their houses, their insurance. And meanwhile, we're paying back the money for this smart city LA, which just happens to correlate with almost the amount of the budget cuts that were taken from the fire department. Okay, and obviously this whole subject would not be complete if we didn't discuss the Diddy correlation with the fires. A lot of celebrities lost their homes in this fire, and people started to speculate if it had something to do with the cover up or destruction of the Diddy evidence. The crazy thing is, one of Diddy's victims, Allie Carter, came out a couple weeks before this fire broke out and said verbatim that there would be things that happen that would cause corruption or devastation to evidence, such as fires. So I don't know if she knows something we don't know, or she's in connection with someone that maybe knows more than we do, or if that was just her speculation based off her experience with Diddy. But either way, it makes you question what's the motive, what's really happening here, what's burning to ashes. One of the major speculations was that there was tunnels under Diddy's house where he performed different things. He held different functions and did different acts. If you get the gist, with these tunnels, it led to different prominent places in LA. One place that was devastated in the fire was the Getty Museum, which is in the Hollywood Hills. There has been people who have come out that this staple place in LA is one of the major entrances to many of the tunnels. So I don't know if it's a cover up in the Diddy case. There's so much more that goes into the LA tunnels and everything. But I did hear that there's a Starbucks in these tunnels and that celebrities are able to get free drinks on their commute to wherever they're going, which I guess maybe Starbucks has some sort of partnership with the who knows what. But I just wonder, why not Alfred's? Why not La La Land? But then I remember, probably because these owners have morals. I just think Starbucks coffee is one of those places that you go to when you need like a quick hit of caffeine and you don't want to get out of your car and you're too lazy, or you are in the middle of nowhere and that's literally your only option. But to have a Starbucks in the tunnel is insane. With the whole Diddy case, it is hard for me to believe that any of this did not correlate with the destruction of evidence, I do think could easily be the case because we do know and have recorded phone calls of Diddy in prison trying to negotiate different people to speak out on his behalf for compensation to basically plead his innocence, which just proves that you are not right in the head. I just have a question. Why the F is Diddy riding a bike around the common area of jail? I don't even think he deserves those privileges. I do think that the LA fires did participate in maybe some destruction or corruption of evidence. There is just too much and too many hard facts and evidence that have been brought to the surface that nobody should question whether he is innocent or not. So I'm going to do a full other entry on the whole Diddy situation because I think that there's just so much more to unpack there. And you guys obviously don't want to be sitting listening to a 2-hour podcast. So I'm trying to keep my entries to an hour, but there is definitely a lot more beyond the surface. On a lighter note, so I watched the Molly May documentary on Amazon Prime, and if you guys don't know Molly May, she was on Love Island. She was a contestant. She got married to another contestant, Tommy Fury, who's a boxer. They had a child together who was so cute. And as of recently, they got separated. She did claim in the documentary that their divorce wasn't finalized. Her documentary was really inspiring. There's only 3 episodes that were released, but the first 3 episodes kind of embodied like how she's handling her single mom life, being a single parent, co-parenting, her post-separation, but also starting her clothing line that she has been working on for quite some time. And post launching her clothing line, she like experienced a ton of hate because her blazers, the quality had a defective batch, and the backlash she received was crazy. She handled a lot of the situations in the documentary with such grace, and it was really inspiring. So if you guys are looking to watch something that you're an entrepreneur or just a girl wanting to start a business, then I would highly recommend to watch. Definitely 10 out of 10 so far. My only rebuttal, which I am waiting to watch the rest. We obviously don't know why they separated. There is speculation of cheating, and I'm not one to jump to conclusions, so I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but she seems as though she's handling the separation with, even she states, the hopes of getting back together with him one day. I hope she does take a stance and move on from Tommy. It's easier said than done, of course, and I'm obviously not in the situation, so I don't want to judge. She's just such a boss and has so much going for her. And if someone isn't going to treat her the way that she should be treated, then she should just 100% walk away. But I guess we'll see. I do love her aesthetic and the way that she vlogs and the whole career she's built around being on Love Island. Speaking of vlogging, we leave tomorrow for my little sister's wedding. I'm super excited about to obviously celebrate her. Also, just see the sun because it's been so cold here. I don't think I've ever been this pale in my life. Honestly, it's so surreal to see my little sister get married because as the oldest of 3, my brother and I are still singles. At least I have him, so she's bringing hope for the both of us. But it's going to be so much fun, and I'm going to be vlogging the whole thing so you guys can see the behind the scenes. We will be doing a welcome ceremony boat on Friday, and then Saturday is the wedding. We're going to come back on Sunday. I honestly just couldn't be more happy for her. I also love my new brother-in-law. He's Australian, which he's just great. There's something about Australians that I love in the culture. I feel like they're just so much more blunt and straightforward. We love to welcome an Aussie to the family, and maybe it will bring me dual citizenship. I still haven't packed for tomorrow, so to wrap this up, every Dry Diaries entry, we do our Dear Dry Diaries, which you ask the questions and I give my feedback and answers. Whether it's a solo episode, I'll give you my personal advice. If it's with a guest, I have them weigh in. So we are going to dive into it. The first question, how do I stop obsessing over an ex who I'm still in love with? It's actually kind of embarrassing to even admit. We broke up 5 months ago and it's been hard. The thing is, he calls me every time he goes out and we've hooked up 6 times since breaking up. What should I do? I feel like there is hope of us getting back together. I would say that the way you stop obsessing over him is to stop hooking up with him, especially if he's calling you when he's drunk just for a hookup and he isn't calling you anytime outside of that. That should show you the level of respect he has for you. It's not that he doesn't respect you, but he's not respecting your emotions. Your question is, what should I do? Number one, stop hooking up with him. Stop answering his calls, especially if he's drunk. If it brings you more closure, have a conversation with him and say, hey, I know that we have hooked up and you've called me when we've gone out, but moving forward, I don't want to do this anymore. I respect myself too much and it's time for me to move on, and I can't do this if you are continually still calling me. I would also tell him whenever you guys broke up that privilege that he once had of calling you or hooking up with you, he doesn't have anymore now that you guys are broken up. So he doesn't get that availability and access to you as he used to because you guys aren't together anymore. If you want to have that conversation with him, I would. After that conversation, you cannot reach out to him. You cannot answer his calls. If you feel like you can't do that, there is nothing wrong with setting boundaries. And those boundaries may include blocking his number or blocking his social media so you don't feel inclined to reach out or look at his stuff. But that is the only way that you are going to get over him. And I'm so sorry you're going through this. I feel like everyone has been in this situation. Everyone's gone through a hard breakup where it's hard to get over somebody, but you can totally do it. Just know that you're worth more than someone treating you as a convenience. Let me know how it goes and what the update is on the conversation if you have it. But if you don't have it, please block him. It's going to be so much better for your mental health and for you to move on. Whenever you get into a healthy place, then feel free to unblock him. There's nothing wrong with that. Dear Dry Diaries, I recently lent a friend a few of my things while they were staying at my house, and now they've moved out. I haven't gotten them back yet. Every time I bring it up, they act like it's no big deal. How do I address the situation without seeming passive aggressive or too demanding? This has happened to me one too many times. Okay, well, that was really nice of you as a friend to have her stay at your house and lend her your things. 2, if you are constantly bringing it up and she's acting like it's no big deal or she is just being very passive about it, there's only one way to go about this. Give her a phone call and say, hey, can I come over today at 4 o'clock? I want to grab my things. That gives her the opportunity to not make an excuse or plan ahead. If she says she's not available at 4, I would just keep proposing new times that work out for both of you for that day and go and get your stuff. That would be my best advice. I don't know if you guys ever hang out at her house, but if you do, you could bring it up when you're there. Like, hey, where's my stuff? I just want to grab it so I don't forget. I think that's a very non-passive aggressive or demanding way to get back your stuff. At the end of the day, it is your stuff, and so you have the right to your stuff. She did borrow it from you, so there is nothing wrong if she puts the situation off more and more with the things I just suggested, then putting a little bit of your foot forward and maybe being blunt and honest with her. Like, I need my stuff back. Okay, last question. Dear Dry Diaries, I've been dating someone who's great in many ways, but we have some pretty different values when it comes to things like family, religion, and life goals. I'm starting to realize that these differences might cause problems in the future. How do I know if our differences are something we can work through or if they are deal breakers? Okay, my first thought would be if you guys are dating with the intention of having a family and getting married, then I would say the difference of values when it comes to things like family, religion, and life goals is unfortunately definitely a deal breaker, in my opinion, because of the fact that those three things are usually like the three things that you should look in a relationship for and align with each other about. For myself, when I'm dating, I see those things as the foundation of a lot of relationships. If it was one or the other and not all three, then depending on the situation, I would say maybe it's something you can work through and come to an agreement or a middle ground on. But because it's like the solid three foundational things, I know that it's going to be really hard because you did mention that you really like this person, but I don't think that you can build a future with someone, especially a future family, if you aren't aligned on those things. I think you got to do what's best for you and what you want. And again, there is someone out there that will align on all three values. So don't discredit yourself because that's what you deserve. All right, guys. So thank you for listening and watching the first entry of the Dry Diaries. I'm so excited to get this chapter started with you. Follow all of our socials and also the pod. You can get it on any streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. And don't forget to submit your own Dear Dry Diaries questions. You can do it through the website, www.thedrydiaries.com, or through the email, contact@thedrydiaries.com. Any questions you submit through the website will be anonymous, so I want to hear it all. Don't hold back. I have a exciting new entry for next week. I will be sitting down with Jonathan Mark. He's a medium. He works on unsolved cases with the FBI and CIA. He connects with people that have passed over. I personally have gotten a reading from him. It was crazy. His gift is just so unique and powerful. And honestly, he's just such a down to earth, nice human being. And so you guys will definitely have to tune in to that entry. So I will see you next week. Bye.